When I was very little, say for example 6 and 7, I went to Sunday school, I heard Bible stories, I listened to worship music. I knew all of God, and I knew that He loved us and that He sent Jesus to die for us and that Jesus was born at Christmas. And I knew that we should pray to this God. So every night I would sit down and I would pray, "Dear God, please let me live until I'm 100 years old." And I also knew that ours was a God that sometimes asked us to sacrifice things. So I would also pray, "And please don't take Harry, Sammy and ABC Bear away from me," because they were my favourite 3 teddies. So I knew of God and that we could ask things of Him. And I knew that He sometimes asks things of us, like a certain way to live our lives. But I didn't really understand the heart of God. But then I became a Christian and I got to know more about God's heart and the way He wants us to live. And I realised I actually had it wrong. And that yes, sometimes God does ask things of us, but He doesn't do it out of spite. He wouldn't just pull teddy bears off a small child just because He can and because it's in His power. He asks us to sacrifice things to make us better and to grow us stronger and to give out of love. So we are asked to have a servant heart, but it's in a way that lifts us up higher and makes us more in line with who we're meant to be and the best way of living our lives.
For me, looking at the world, the more I studied it, kind of some biology, physics, chemistry, just looking at the way the universe is, for me, it always just made more sense for there to be a creator behind all of that. Even from like a really young age, for me, it was just logical that there was some being behind it. The belief in kind of understanding that this all-powerful creator of the universe wanted to have an individual relationship with me was something that kind of came about a lot later. So He doesn't just want to be this dispassionate dictator in the sky. He wants to be a caring father who hears what we are experiencing, the way we are experiencing it, and react accordingly. I found it really difficult to get my head around that He would care that much.
For me, probably the most incredible thing about God is that He's not just the God of creation and oceans and stars and the universe, but He's the God of the little things as well. He's a God that came onto the earth in the form of Jesus, and He experienced things like we do.
It's so easy when we're thinking about God to almost slip into the teenage attitude when dealing with a parent of like, you don't know what it's like. The crazy thing is he came and he did experience all of that, knowing that he was going to experience some of the best and some of the worst of being human.
Because if there is no God, then why should we live our life in any sort of way? And to be honest, why should we live our life at all? I know while I was at university, I really struggled with depression and anxiety and felt really distant from God, and I couldn't see Him at all. I thought, what's the point to all of this? Like, the suffering going on, the pain that I was feeling, I felt so isolated and alone. And I thought, there's no purpose to this life. If I'm created just to suffer, then I don't want this. And I didn't want to be around. But actually, having God in our life gives us that purpose.
When you understand that kind of God cares about you in everything that you're doing, you want to try and do your best in everything that you're doing, because it's not just about doing it for you or the person that you're doing it for, but you're doing it kind of for Him as well. So when I was a kid, I used to do some amateur dramatics. If my parents were in the audience, you'd always try that little bit harder, just because you really want to give them your best. I'd say it's much more like that, actually. He's not a head teacher, he's a dad.
It's about living in relationship with God, and actually when it was the darkest and most awful moments, I think it brings us a lot of hope that we do have a God that's out there that does want to be in a relationship with us, that loves us even when we feel totally broken and battered and bruised from the storms of life, which I think a lot of people do at the moment with this virus going around, knowing that God's there for you unconditionally when you feel rubbish or when you feel great, that He still loves you. I think that's something that nothing on this earth can give you, that sort of hope, or that transcends and goes above all your situations in life is something that I personally have found nothing on earth that could give me that in the same way. And I think that's what God can give to you.
It's much more succinct. I feel a lot of mine is getting cut.
I mean, I started talking about teddy bears.